Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor live from beautiful Palm Beach, in distinction to freezing Washington, D.C. This is a free state as opposed to New York, which I understand is being sued by the Attorney General. And I think the Attorney General of New York is being sued. About time. They've been violating the law over and over and over again by not cooperating and turning over criminal aliens. Some of which, in an increasingly larger number than anyone realized, are killing, murdering, raping, stealing, and otherwise creating massive crime problems. I mean, the mayor who is struggling to bring crime down, and given all the obstacles that are there, he's done a pretty good job. He's probably pretty close to back to pre-pandemic level, pretty close, not quite there, but when I more than anyone will tell you, when you deal with the laws passed by Cuomo, that's the reason the city is in the trouble that it is. I think it's really odd that Cuomo's running for governor, and he may be the biggest reason that New York slipped so much as the safest large city in America. He passed all the laws that have put somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000 dangerous criminals walking the streets that would be in jail if I were the mayor or Bloomberg. He passed those laws. He passed a law that basically lets everybody out, no matter what they're charged with. I mean, sometimes it's really crazy. And then within a week or two, they kill somebody or beat somebody up, or this happens all the time in New York. He also passed the law on discovery. Now, that would be harder maybe for a lot of people to understand, but the prosecutor is required to turn over all the evidence of the case like in 45 days. And if you can't do it, the case is dismissed. A lot of cases get dismissed that way. And then we used to have a law, most states do. If you commit a heinous crime and you're 17 or 16, or some states go down to 15, you're tried as an adult. Up to 18, I mean, you can kill your parents and you're a juvenile delinquent. And you can take it off your record later. This is absurd. And now I'll give you another one. He changed the parole laws of New York, made it easier for parole. Since the guy who wants to be mayor did that, 43 cop killers are walking the street that should be in jail who murdered police officers. Now, I know everybody knows about the old people he got killed, and then the sexual allegations, which I'm not going to get into because I don't know if they're true or false. But what I just told you is the reason why he shouldn't be mayor. They're going to elect the guy who caused the problems. So I think that Adams, now having been relieved of the burden of what was clearly a political prosecution, now I don't want to foreclose people coming along, particularly Republicans, but on the Democrat side, he sure as hell. I mean, you may and I do have real objections to some of the things that he does, or some of the policies that he's involved in. But I don't know how to say this he's 100 times better than everybody else. Some of the others are frightening. Cuomo's frightening. How if those laws that I just told you weren't there, I have no doubt that whatever else Adams does, screws up or does wrong or liberal, whatever, crime would be under much more control because he's got the right police officers, and he's got. They may be coming over tonight or tomorrow night, but two very active and very knowledgeable police officers I had lunch with today, and they're both Republicans, and they're both naturally would be opposed to Adams, and I'm not. They're satisfied with him, and they feel the police department has a better attitude under him than under de Blasio. There are a lot of things they also think should be changed, but they're not knowledgeable enough to know that his hands are tied behind his back. Now, you can go back and maybe he should have done something about this earlier when he had a lot more political sway. I thought so. But he was a rookie then. And then, of course, you just got to look at what you got. So who are the alternatives? So far, he's like in a different ballpark than the alternatives, including particularly Cuomo. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And you got to take a look at those other cases that they have. Now, I was really impressed with those other cases for a while. But since they haven't been brought, and knowing how that office works, they don't sound like they're very strong. Those are the ones that involve the homeless contracts and the illegal alien contracts, which actually are in the news for another reason now, because the federal government has canceled the 52 million that was going for luxury housing for luxury housing for illegal aliens. The biggest recipients of which are Trendiragua at the Roosevelt Hotel, who are a violent, homicidal, major organized crime group that has established itself in America faster than any other organized crime group in history. Italian, Mexican, Chinese, you name it. None of them have ever established themselves this quickly. All over the country. All over the country. They're killing people in Colorado and Los Angeles, and they're killing people in the middle of the country, and they're killing people here in Florida, and they are. And if the best thing that happened is it's going to take a while to get them all out because we don't know how many came in. But their ascent has now been blocked by a guy who's doing a remarkable job, Tom Homan. Tom Homan is going to meet with Adams Thursday. That's tomorrow, right?
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, I meet with him. I first found out about it earlier in the week, and I keep thinking Thursday. Well, Thursday's coming up. And there are some issues with Adams' interpretation of the sanctuary laws. And I really do think, although just exactly how you navigate this as an executive is hard, I do think that the laws, the New York sanctuary law, all of the sanctuary laws are illegal. Give you one big concept so we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, and that is that by and large, the Constitution of the United States, not by and large, the Constitution of the United States has something they call the Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause makes federal law, Trump, state and local law. So where it comes to immigration, which is pretty much a function reserved to the federal branch, like foreign policy, it's sort of an application of foreign policy. The states should concede to the federal government, both on law and policy. And I think this is part of what this lawsuit's about by Pam Bondi. And boy, she's right out of the box. She's showing you that she's not going to take any prisoners. Heck of an expression for an AG, huh? Not going to take it. She's going to take a lot of prisoners, actually. So let's take a look for a moment. Let's take a look for a moment at some of the things that Musk has uncovered, and let's see why would these Democrats be out there talking about a war against him, fight? The minister we had on the other night who's invoking violence, the politicians who are invoking violence. Aren't they overdoing it for what we're seeing? Isn't this stuff we all knew anyway? You knew the federal government was wasting money. $7 trillion. 6 years ago, it was $4 trillion. We're doing so much more now. And you really think even it's like, oh, they're helping people. You really think people are being helped that much more? So where's the money going? Where's it going? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute. The press conference yesterday, gosh almighty, I'm going to watch it again. I actually watched it again today. Musk didn't have a note. He didn't have a teleprompter. I don't have a teleprompter, by the way. I'm not a senile old man. I'm an old man, but I'm not a senile one. See, no teleprompter. See, just me. And the president. You saw the president answering questions. There we are. Of course, when he has to do a formal statement, he'll read it. But then everything else is the operation of his mind. And, that's really important with a president or a decision maker, because you start to understand why he's going to do things. You even come to understand his rationale, his philosophy. You can see where he's going and why he's going there, even if you disagree with him. So, let's look. And look at that kid. I'm sorry. It reminds me of my experience with Andrew when I was inaugurated. I love that kid X. He's a good boy too. I mean, Andrew was a very good boy too. He's a fine man now, I'll tell you. I've got all those pictures back there. But you can't hear me now?
No, I can hear you. I can't. Yeah.
Can you hear him?
You. Not him, no.
Oh, that's just the background? That's just the background. Okay. So, I mean, you get a special feeling when you look when you're in the Oval Office. I'll tell you that. I mean, and I'm not doing this to drop names. I've been in the Oval Office a lot with a lot of different presidents, and it still doesn't matter. Even when I go to White House every day, it was like when I pull up and come in, it was like, oh, I'm going to the White House. There's just something about it. Look at that snow out there. People were objecting to the way he was dressed. I don't know. I mean, I am a sort of old-fashioned guy. But look, see, I'm dressed. A couple of years ago, I would never have been on like this. I'd be in a shirt and a tie like the president. But now we do this, and I think I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting the way he's dressed. He must be one of these cold people because he's got a big overcoat on. I don't even wear an overcoat outside. So what was he doing? Let me see if I can summarize it just quickly. And what they've accomplished. How many days have they been doing this, Steve and Ted? How many days have they been? 2 weeks?
What are you referring to?
The cutting, the looking at things and pulling out, this wasted money, that wasted money, this way, or let's take a look at this.
Well, I think they've been going at it.
Oh yeah, they were going at
it.
Yeah, but they couldn't get access. I mean, before he became president, look, they're giving him trouble now that he's president. He can't have access. He wouldn't have been able to get these records before.
Well, I think that
they used public records.
We would have been putting the carts a little before the horse if we had the team together way ahead of the election. And obviously,
no, we didn't have it together ahead of the election.
Musk didn't, get involved years ago with Trump, right? So, they had to build the team. They had to figure out what the mechanisms were to look at these various places. Plus, getting through and past the gate of the bureaucracy has been difficult and still remains difficult in a lot of respects.
Oh, they're going to fight like hell.
They don't want to be investigated. They don't want to be audited.
No. If you have a job and you don't have to go to work, I mean, and you're a lazy bum. I mean,
and my cousin gets a big contract from it.
Oh yeah, and your wife and whatever. So there is a gentleman named Davis who is Musk's number 2 guy, and he's the guy who straightened out X for him, and other places where there was a disparity in terms of either too much spending or inappropriate spending, and he's supposed to be a whiz at it. And there are people that are just good at it. And if they're good in business at it, they'll be good in government. Now, remember, they find it. The president decides. The president was elected, the only one. Now, he may get advice from the OMB director. He's unelected, too. So this unelected thing is, excuse the language, but just pure Democrat bullshit. Don't even pay attention to it. It's like propaganda because somebody trained them like to be Marxists. They're trying to make you think that unelected is bad. The Secretary of State's unelected. Secretary of Defense is unelected. The Tom Homan, who's the director and doing such a great job, is unelected and not confirmed because he's the director. The president is the chief executive, and he gets to select who he needs to help him carry out the functions. He selected Musk. He selected the richest man in the country, which gives you some real security against corruption, and maybe one of the most successful geniuses that we have. Come on, when do we get a person of this quality working for the federal government? We should be happy. So how about, I'm just going to start where I have it, not in any necessary order how they did it, but the Department of Education, which we know is on its way out. I'm not even sure I think this was established by executive order of Jimmy Carter to pay off the communist teachers union. We don't need a Department of Education. We never have needed it. And we didn't have it until Carter wanted to get reelected. And the teachers union, who has done more to hurt children in this country than any other group, put this monstrosity together. So they have already found almost $1 billion of contracts that should be immediately terminated. How about this one? They add up, right? $1.5 million to observe mailing and clerical operations at a mail facility. And whether they have appropriate DEI at the mail facility. What do they care about? Well, never mind. 89 contracts worth more than 881 million, so it's a little less than $1 billion, right? Have been already canceled by Doge. And 29 of them are diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and they amounted to 101 million. So that's about 1/8, right? 1/8 are the programs that you know of, and these programs are disasters. People like that Kendall guy and that woman have become multimillionaires, going into schools and teaching them all this crap. The Attorney General's son-in-law is making a fortune doing this. And the Attorney General was scaring the hell out of parents, calling them terrorists. And that isn't a conflict. Oh, but when I did that, they threatened to sue me. When I said that on WABC, it got John Catsimatidis all nervous. Everything used to get John very nervous. And I showed him the records that I had. And I said, tell them to go stuff it up there. Blah, blah, blah. They never sued me. I put out the records, and there you go. It was right there. They were lying through their teeth. The son-in-law makes a fortune trying to brainwash our kids. He's got a big contract with the Communist Teachers Union in New York. The Attorney General, the former Attorney General, the worst Attorney General in history. Press never covered it. Now they're raising conflicts of interest. They don't even have one. What's the conflict of interest? It has nothing to do with education. A third of the students in the country have failed to show basic abilities that are expected for their age bracket. This is their own evaluation. A third. And they have an organization that's supposed to take care of that, and they get 800 million, and every year it gets worse. So one would think you would change that, right? So if you keep giving more money and they continue to fail, you're sort of incentivizing them. I mean, like they're getting rewarded when the kids drop down further. Maybe you should get rid of them and bring in a new group, huh? Like if your team lost 50 games this year and then 70 games next year and then 90 the year after, you pay them more money? If you like to lose. Here, this isn't a game. You only have a certain period of time to educate children. When the Communist Teachers Union takes that away from you, like the 2 years of locking them up at home, it's a sin. It can't be recaptured, as we see. There's some permanent decline that's gone on in all of our kids that were subjected. And if you want to trace it out, I can get you studies that show where you got a local from the Communist Teachers Union, the kids underperform. If you go to a place that is not dominated by the Communist Teachers Union, even public schools, they do much better. And the charter schools, the private schools, the parochial schools, and homeschooling are still not quite back to pre-pandemic, but almost there. And some of them are exceeding it. And in New York, there's a Success Academy that is enormously successful. I think they may have 160, 170,000 applications. And number one, they won't allow them to increase as a matter of state law because the Communist Teachers Union has put a lid on the number of charter schools. They're just helping kids too much. And the people who are bought and paid for by that union vote for that. And then number two, they do everything they can to harass the Success Academy because they're supposed to share space and they keep taking it away from them. And in every respect, they're doing remarkably better with the same group of at-risk children. FEMA got caught slipping $59 million to New York City for luxury housing. Luxury housing for the illegal aliens. Now Tom Homan has a real answer to that. He feels that they're going to feel much, much better, like at an island resort. He's not going to. It's not as if he's going to take him from the Roosevelt Hotel and put him someplace crappy. He's going to put him on Guantanamo. Beautiful beach. He's just not going to get on the beach. Oh, and then there's that prison in El Salvador that wants to take him. Now, that might be a problem with the judges because there are people that say it's the worst prison in South America. That'd be really cool. You come in the United States illegally and you end up in the worst prison in El Salvador.
They use stress positions. They use stress positions where they make the prisoners hold their hands above their head for an extended amount of time. It's a bad place, from what I understand.
Yeah. You think maybe it may say to people, I don't want to come in?
Yeah, it's a great stick or carrot.
You think it's working? So now the other day, they only had 300 people. Biden averaged 5,000 a day. He had 10,000 and 12,000 days. 10 and 12,000 coming in the same places that now Trump has gotten it down. I mean, when he first came in, it went down. I could get you the chart. I left it inside, and it's really dramatic. I mean, right away it was down to like 2,000, and then 1,400, and then 1,200. Then they went below the 1,000 mark. Now it's down to 300. I think if we could do this, we're probably now at a net, from our point of view, positive position. What do I mean by that? I think more people are going back than coming in. Large number of people are going back. We just don't have any way of really measuring that. If we only took in 300 or 400 people the other day, I guarantee you more than 300 or 400 people left on that day. Oh, by the way, of those 300 or 400, the Trump administration accepted 6%. The average acceptance rate of the Biden administration was 70 to 80%. So they would get 10,000, right? And we'd end up with 7 or 8,000. That's why we ended up with 14, 15 million. And during Biden's short presidency, we took in more people than Ellis Island did in 65 years. This is much worse than you realize because it was presented euphemistically by the lying scumbags of the press. So that's 59 million that we'll get to save. And now the controller of New York is crying that they may have to cut something in the budget. How about him? Why don't we cut him? A useless left-wing fool. He's running for mayor. I mean, the guy was in favor of defunding the police. New York took $1 billion out of the police department. Adams has only been able to scratch up about a 1/10 of that for them. The city is operating with a dangerously small police department, which also great credit to them in some of the things they've been able to do at those numbers. But it is at the core the best police department in the world. And they're going to fight and fight and fight and fight if they're down to 50 guys. I mean, I know them. They never would have given up a police station like they did in Minneapolis with that boy mayor, unless they get a guy like Landler. I mean, we got crazy left-wing nuts like AOC, and she's not even the craziest one. Now, the best one was when Elon, and I want to do this. I should put Elon on to do it, but it's just too interesting to point these out. And he was having a good time doing this. So they looked at the Treasury Department. That's the one that the judge has stopped them. The Obama judge has stopped them from looking at. They can't look at the Treasury Department. Well, because here's what they found so far. All outgoing payments have to have a categorization code in order to be paid. You got to know what it's for, right? Most of them were left blank. Thousands and thousands were left blank, making audits nearly impossible. All payments must also have a brief explanation attached, for a car, for lunch, right? Food, equipment, a computer. Well, that's not there either in most cases. How do you audit this? Every payment must be checked against an up-to-date do not pay list of known, as he calls them, I love that, fraudsters, terrorists, organized criminals, and it's updated every day. They could find very few, if any, examples of anybody who bothered to check. So what's the use of having? What's the use of cutting off money for the terrorist groups if they're going to get the money anyway? They've got situations where people had contracts for 4 months and got paid for 10 years. They got more than a few like that. So all of this is being administered by long-term bureaucrats who've been there forever. So this is not happening by accident. More than 100 billion worth of entitlements every year are going to individuals with no social security number or even a temporary identification. So you could be collecting it 3-4 times. I'm very familiar with that because that's what they used to do to welfare until I brought in finger imaging and workfare. And I found people collecting welfare 3-4 times. A lot of people, including city workers, including people who worked in the police department. Lunchtime, they go to the Social Security office and claim they don't have a job. And then if they had a little more time, they go to the Bronx. If they were in Manhattan, they go to the Bronx, sign up there. Nobody bothered to check. So we checked. First, we checked names. They never bothered to do that. Many of these people did it under the same name. And that's why we did finger imaging. Oh, this was insulting. New York Times wrote an editorial about how I was a racist because a lot of these people are Black or Hispanic, and therefore I was requiring them to undergo the indignity of a finger imaging. And I said, everybody that works for me, every single person here, in front of me right here. All my commissioners and the big guys, the little guys, they all get fingerprinted. I had him. I said, "You feel like you're being treated in a disrespectful way by being fingerprinted?" No, my fingers get dirty. That's all. The New York Times didn't write anything like that when I got fingerprinted in Fulton County for an absolutely ridiculous political prosecution, or the now president of the United States. But these people, you couldn't fingerprint them. They didn't want to fingerprint it because they knew that it was going to show that a lot of these great society programs are large percentage frauds, making a lot of people very rich. This is the first reason that I changed parties, because as a young prosecutor, I uncovered a massive amount of fraud in the Model Cities administration. And none of it was going to poor people. It was all going to the big, fat, and happy congressmen and other Democrat officials. The Social Security Administration doesn't appear to have a mechanism to prevent duplicate Social Security numbers. You know how easy that would be to fix with the computers we have today? So Glenn Harlan Reynolds, who wrote this article a couple of days ago for the New York Post, concludes that this could be the product of just mass incompetence, almost to the point of insanity, right? Or it could be the product of mass corruption. Assume the system is designed that way because it is intended to facilitate fraud. It's probably a more logical explanation that they're simply incompetent. And then if you start taking a look at how some of these people became millionaires, as Musk pointed out, then you figure out, like, how about these congressmen who represent these very poor districts? And the poor districts have just gotten poorer while they were members of Congress. And then when they die, we find out that they're worth 20, 30, 40 million.
Well, their cousins run the food for the homeless shelters, so they make tons of money off of that.
Well, that's the way it works. That's the way it works, and you know, they have these names that sound like that are virtue signaling, like it's a not-for-profit or it's a non-government organization. Now, I can tell you for sure, in Europe, non-government organizations are more corrupt than businesses. I mean, they're all left-wing. First of all, they're all ideologically driven. And then they think the government is there to steal money from. Now, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with the number one offender. This is until we get to the Department of Defense or some of the others. Come right back. You'll be interested to see what they spend money on. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order
through college. Well, welcome back to America's Mayor Live. America's Mayor is having just a ball today. This is the kind of stuff that I used to do when I was an assistant U.S. attorney, and it's one of the reasons I became a Republican, because I realized that the worst thing that happened for black people, poor black people, and poor people in general was the Great Society. It created a subculture of dependence. It created a form of slavery, and the Democrat Party maintains it that way because they need the vote, which is part of the reason for the uncontrolled flow of people. Now, this is not speculation. There's a councilwoman or state whatever, they're all a bunch of, well, and she said, well, actually, I don't need it for votes. I always win, but I need it in order to keep up my numbers so I can keep my district, and I need it for redistricting, meaning the extra population of illegal people. So to that point, the New York City Council, which is probably could be designated as an official communist cell, voted about a year and a half ago to allow non-citizens to vote in New York City elections. Now, somehow I must have missed. Now, we're the people that are flaunting the Constitution, right? Like hell we are. Somehow I must have missed the exception in the New York State Constitution. The New York State Constitution has as a requirement to vote in the state, which includes New York City, being a citizen of the United States. You can't change that unless you follow the process for changing the Constitution. However, the case is still being litigated for a year and a half. And these crooked judges, now New York City judges are, this is a 150-year-old disgrace to the bar. And it's why the Bar Association that disbarred me for being Trump's lawyer based on an activist complaint and a bunch of bullshit and lies and deception, a doctored tape, and boy, you just name it. But you got to figure that this Bar Association is pretty damn crooked if it allows this crooked legal system to exist for this long. The judges in New York are appointed by the political hacks, by the party bosses right at the local level. Theoretically, they're elected. It's a one-party city, so nobody runs against them. So I guess one of the most famous is that distinguished Justice Engomaron, who presided over the Trump trial, in which they evaluated Mar-a-Lago at $8 million or $18 million. So tomorrow, we didn't have a chance to do it today. Tomorrow, I'm going to play a real estate appraiser, and so is Stephen, and maybe even Ted. This is going to be a real estate committee. And we're going to do some evaluations to show you that Judge Engomaron should be impeached for being a total effing liar. Now, Judge Engomaron is a perfect example. 20 years, he's been elected 3 times. I was only elected twice. 3 times. Except he had no opponent, ever. Why do you do that? You do that in Nazi Germany. You do that in the Soviet Union. Or, I mean, in some places like Venezuela, they give you an opponent and they fix the election. That's, you know, I think that's the number one choice of the Democrat Party in America. You know, that's what they did in 20.
Or in those other countries, they sometimes will just shoot the opponent.
Well, yeah, well, like Maduro. Maduro doesn't know why everybody got angry at him. Biden went down there, or Biden had his people go down there and said, you know, I need to buy oil from you because I'm not developing any oil in America because of the green thing, which he doesn't even understand. But I guess if you buy it from and use it from Venezuela, it doesn't have the same impact on global boppity-doop. And so he said, and Maduro said, yeah, but you got to lift the sanctions. We're starving down here. No problem. You're a communist country. We like to help communist countries. Look at all that we do for Iran. They're not even communists. Look how much money we give them.
Need some cash.
And Cuba. I mean, my boss Obama opened things up with Cuba, gave them a bundle. Yeah, you can get all the money you want. And he said, but you got to do me a favor, Maduro. You got to have free and fair elections. So he got the signal, and he held a free and fair election. He took his opponent and put him in jail. Because that's exactly what Biden was trying to do, right? But Maduro's smarter than Biden. He got him in jail. Biden tried and flop. Right? But what was he trying to do? His objective was to put Donald J. Trump in jail, which makes him, as we said, a banana republic dictator. And this whole idea that Donald Trump is going to go after them, he had a chance to go after them, he didn't. Now, when he does prosecute those who are guilty of serious federal felonies, get lost, because he's not going after them. He's vindicating one of the most important things we have, our system of justice. So like tonight, Pam Bondi is made the first step in going after maybe the most crooked state in New York, most crooked state in America, New York. I'm wondering if New York City or Fulton County, Georgia is more crooked. I don't know. New York City has been crooked longer, and they could probably teach them things. But in Fulton County, it might be deeper and even more accepted. In all of the places that I got familiar with when I was representing the president, all the places, I mean, they were all crooked. Philadelphia, Detroit, I guess it's a county, right? Maricopa County in Arizona, which is half of Arizona, by the way. It's ridiculous, it's half. I would say that Fulton County was the most thoroughly systemically crooked, and Philadelphia were the professional vote stealers, meaning they were better at it than anybody. They could probably give courses on it, and maybe they do, to Democrats on how to do it. I really believe that in some of these places like New York and Philadelphia and Chicago, even in elections where the election, the guy's going to win by 80%, they cheat in order to practice. They don't want to lose their skills at cheating. So I want you to look at this guy right here. This is U.S.-born Al-Qaeda terrorist Anwar al-Awlaki. Now, you remember his name. This guy was an advisor to the people who blew up the World Trade Center and attacked us. He then wasn't caught, and he went on to kill numerous other Americans. His education was paid for by USAID. It's not the only terrorist, by the way. It's just a big name.
That's par for the course for USAID. I feel like this is generally the thing.
And how long have you known this? I've known this for 30 years.
Yeah, well,
I remember John McCain telling me this.
Most people in the know who have friends and things that work for USAID know that it's basically a front for covert operations and shady dealings.
I remember when I started doing a foreign business, foreign security business, John McCain said, stay far away from USAID and don't do a contract with them because they're a bunch of crooks and you'll get caught up in it. And I didn't. I would never even look at them. So this guy, this Anwar al-Awlaki, got a free ride at Colorado State University based on USAID. Now he was born in New Mexico, but on his application he claimed he was born. He lied. He claimed he was born in Yemen, which made him eligible for the. Because we're much more likely to give tuition to an illegal alien than we are to an American. And then he went on and got jobs through USAID. And he used the jobs to recruit people. At a San Diego mosque, and he met 9/11 hijackers Nawaf al-Hamzi and Khalid el-Midar. Two of the people who took Flight 77 into the Pentagon. And in 2006, he was arrested in Yemen for numerous terrorist acts. And how about this? You'll remember this. 3 years later, he was communicating and guiding Nidal Hassan, who gunned down 13 people at the Texas Army base. Now, this was the guy that Biden would not list as an Islamic extremist terrorist murder, even though the guy was yelling as he killed these people that it was being done for Allah. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. But Biden would not say it was a terrorist murder committed by Islamic extremists, even though the guy was being directed by the person whose education we paid for.
What they call it, workplace violence?
Yeah, workplace violence. Very good memory. But I mean, that one, what's going on with that and Obama? I know the communist part. He was trained by communists. His book was written by a communist. But is it that he really is a Muslim and he likes them better, or what is it? Why during that entire period couldn't we use the term Islamic extremist to name our enemy? It's like trying to fight the Nazis and being afraid to say Nazi. He also helped. You guys will be interested in this because this was a weird one. He also gave a lot of instructions to. Do you remember who this is? Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib. Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib. Pretty good, huh? You know who he was? So he was the guy in Detroit who landed the Northwest Airlines plane on Christmas Day with bombs hidden in his shorts, but he couldn't figure out how to set them off.
Oh.
Or maybe he got nervous and he started peeing on them and they wouldn't go off. He was under the direction of the guy whose education we paid for.
Okay, what year was that?
And they're upset about our wanting to cancel this organization because a lot of good things will be stopped. Well, let's take the good things and put them in an honest organization.
And I don't even think that's necessarily true. There are no, I mean.
Well, I haven't heard one yet. I mean, I've heard the senators and congressmen say, they do great work. They do great work. Okay, one, please.
If all that money that they say is going for food actually went to food, the people in these third
Would be
world
fat.
countries, they'd be eating aged steaks and lobster every night, and they would have money
They'd
left over.
and they'd be so happy. They'd be laughing and playing around. They wouldn't want to kill us.
And by the way, but where's the outcry from all the foreign government? Everyone that's been helped by all this USAID money, shouldn't they be up in arms right now? Where are the name one foreign country who's sitting there? Oh my gosh, we need the USAID back, right? If we were so good for all these countries, I haven't heard one country say, "Oh my gosh, where's that aid?"
Yeah, instead of food, it's like, oh, actually, that 10 grand was actually paid to kill my cousin.
Yeah.
You know,
Now, here's
but they
one-
called it chickpeas.
Here is one good thing Obama did. Obama killed him in 2011.
Oh.
So,
Maybe.
but what kind of value do we get out of that education? This is absurd. Now, I don't want to go on with USAID. I mean, there are another 20 or 30 absolutely absurd. You remember the condoms, and they're saying that Musk lied because I guess in the original report they had the wrong country. They spent 50. Was it 50,000 or 50 million?
Million.
How could you spend 50? Well, you see, that's the whole point.
And I think Musk knew that he would say he wanted people to catch him on that so that he could be like, oh, so that's okay. Spending 60 million.
I went to Mozambique as opposed to.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely worth it. We should spend 60
I don't think there are that many people in Mozambique. I mean, that's obviously a kickback scheme. You can't buy 50 million condoms. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you imagine delivering 50 million condoms to Mozambique?
Condoms and everything we
What
could
is
be
it?
doing
They
to
don't
help
want-
the people
they
of
don't want
Mozambique.
Mozambique to reproduce? Are we trying to cut out Mozambique?
It's a little racist almost.
Yeah, I mean, Mozambique. Why would you need 50 million? What the hell is the population of Mozambique? Look it up.
Let's get that. Yeah.
$50 million on condoms from Mozambique. Now, if you can't figure out that's a con job and government people and private people are making a fortune on that, then you are a real fool.
34 million people.
Well, that's more condoms than people.
I'm guessing if you're buying $50
million.
if you're buying $50 million
you
worth of
probably get a
condoms,
volume
you
discount.
got to get a bulk
You probably own the
discount.
company.
They probably got like a couple boxes for that. And the rest
I
of it
don't
is
think
some
most of the
LLC.
condom companies, unless they're with a big, are worth that
Well,
much.
well, let's remember half the population aren't using these condoms, so we can already
I
cut
don't
out
think
half.
they even buy them. I just think they take the cash and put it in their pocket and they give it to the public
Now,
officials. And they
condoms
give out a couple of condoms.
condoms range in price. On average, boxes of 3 go for about 2 to 6. Let's say the government's getting. So on average, condoms usually cost less than $1 each. Which, if I'm doing my math,
So
if
they
50
bought
million
considerably more than 50 million condoms. So Mozambique has more condoms than people.
34 million people, let's say
have probably 80
17
million condoms.
17 million men.
Yeah,
Let's
and
say
there's-
17 million
women
men.
can't really use condoms. You know what you can use a condom for? For giving milk to a stranded puppy.
Aw. You can
It
also
work-
use
at
it
the
to
very
feed-
beginning.
What?
At the very beginning, when a puppy,
What?
if a puppy is separated from its mother, in the first couple of days, the nipple, even a thimble, is too big to get it into their mouth.
Okay.
And they recommend that you take a condom, put the milk, the goat milk, and that you put in with warm water. You put the milk in a condom, you call it, and you just use the condom. It's the easiest way to get it in.
But a non-lubricated condom.
But I hope, or you probably kill the
Yeah,
poor
you
little
don't
thing.
want. Yeah.
Now you
for
only
everyone
have to
out there
do
that's
that
gonna
for
do
the
this at
first.
home.
You have to do this the first 2 or 3 days, and then you can either go to a thimble or an actual small nipple.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I'll dig you up. I'll dig you up a video that shows
Let's
it
do
tomorrow.
it on air with Raleigh here.
The
sometime.
So
mayor is
maybe
an
Raleigh, you
expert.
see, Raleigh, that
Probably too big, right?
So this is what they were doing. They were trying to save the puppies of Mozambique. Were these, by the way, commander? Were these commander?
The mayor taking a shot at the Washington football team with that
The big ones.
with that joke.
or
Wait,
Guardians? Were they Guardians?
The Guardians. That's the
Those are the
Cleveland
two big
baseball team.
brands,
For those
Commander and
non-sports
Guardians.
fans who are
Government
watching,
condoms, so they probably just didn't work.
yeah,
They probably had holes in them.
all that. It didn't work. But by the way,
Has Mozambique had a very large population?
yeah, population 17 million men, 50 million on condoms at about $1 a condom. Wow, that's something. But like the mayor said, let's be honest. Chances are these condoms were never. There were never any exchange of condoms, or there certainly wasn't 15 to 50 million. Chances are
they pocketed most of this money. Yeah.
And were these figures just hidden, or why are we now finding this out? Is Elon is this out there somewhere public hidden
Because
in paperwork?
obviously you can't look at it because they've been enjoined by a court. The court says you're not allowed to look at this.
Stop looking at our theft.
Yeah, stop looking at our crimes.
Yeah, should we be looking at the Democrats who are screaming the loudest?
Yeah, of course, 100. Well, Schumer is streaming the loudest, right? Or no? Or how about the one? How about
let's
the
get to
Congress? How about those Congress people who want us to go? They want them to go violent. Or how about the minister that says that violence is justified in a situation like this? I mean, I have no idea how you justify violence for somebody trying to take a look at stealing.
Right.
So we're looking for the minister comment. That would have been actually 2 days ago. We had that on the show.
Yeah, he's been talking again. He continues to go on. He probably,
by the way.
I bet he has a big contract from the government. A lot of those.
Oh yeah. Well, he might be housing migrants. A lot of the churches
Yeah,
are doing migrants.
yeah. They have migrants, and then they give it to a pal, and the pal kicks back, and then the pal has his brother. It's like the one that Adams was involved with. The guy had his brother ran the security company. His wife ran the company that provided the food.
The peace of God will win out. And in this nation, I'm worried that we are on the verge of bloodshed. This is an attempt to take us back to a day that we do not want to go, and we will not go. Therefore, there will be conflict. I pray that the peace of God will win out and overcome the madness that is attempting to take over this nation.
Don't believe this part.
And I will say to you, beloved, no one likes violence, but sometimes violence is necessary. When Elon Musk forces his way into the United States Treasury and threatens to steal your personal information and your Social Security check, there is the possibility of violence. Sometimes the devil will act so ugly that you...
I mean, do they really believe that Elon Musk wants to steal the Social Security check? That's like not even a rounding
possibility
number.
Of
He means his extra Social Security check. This guy probably gets like 3 or 4.
Now, the tragedy of this is
one might say, now,
apparently
Reverend,
this guy's a minister of God.
You shouldn't be talking about violence. This isn't the Christian thing to do. Well, I will say, why not talk this way? Because Jesus did. Jesus said in this key verse, didn't he? The kingdom of heaven suffers what? Violence. And the who? The violent take it by force. The kingdom of God is a war zone.
Violence. He said the bad people use violence, minister.
Yeah, don't corrupt Jesus that.
Can we take a look at this guy's background? Because for years, people, I mean, they've stopped it now, would refer to the Reverend Al Sharpton. He was no more a reverend than you or I are. He's a big phony. I know Al Sharpton since he was 15. The guy was a juvenile delinquent. I'm not sure. I don't think he ever graduated from college. He certainly never went to a seminary. He never had a church. And I don't know, and he probably is a member of some denomination that they made up, the Servants of God or the whatever. But he's not a member of any church that you would recognize. I would imagine he's been, whatever the hell they do. But this is not like a minister or a priest or a rabbi who was trained. He was kind of a prodigy as a child. He was one of these kids who could get up and do like he had a lot of the Bible memorized, and he would be able to go on a street corner. He'd make money that way. Go on a street corner and he'd give one of these sermons. I'm not sure it even meant anything to him because he didn't have any kind of formal training.
I appreciate that though.
But there was a whole time in America. I prosecuted a lot of these as tax cases where people organized themselves as churches in order to get the tax deduction. They would say they were a church. They and their wife were a church. We had cops doing it and legitimate people. Your accountant would say, organize yourself as the Heavenly Rest Church. You, your wife, and your 3 kids. And then you don't have to pay taxes on your income because you're a church. And did you have to do anything? I don't think so. Well,
you do have to demonstrate
the IRS
when the
IRS was good. The IRS would then did major prosecutions because there are rules. You do have to have services, and you have to be recognized by some recognized church. And so then the IRS cracked down on it. It's gone away, but it was a big thing when I was. Can't remember if I was an assistant U.S. attorney or a U.S. attorney because I don't think I ever prosecuted one of those. My colleagues did. I mean, it's really amazing the crooked capacity of the human mind. It's as bad as the capacity for doing good, isn't it? It's like it is like God and the devil, right? So we have a constitutional crisis.
Breaking news.
Yes, a constitutional crisis. Trump is creating a constitutional crisis. Oh my God. So let's take a look at what he's doing. Trump, the domestic policy decisions are, most of them are completely legal, and every president in one form or another does it, but does it half-heartedly, and a lot of presidents either are knowledgeable of the corruption of their party, or they don't care. They got there and they closed their eyes to it. But if you're a Democrat and you don't know that your party is crooked, you're a stupid Democrat. So you're either part of it or you close your eyes to it. I'm telling you, you put together big contracts, particularly no bid, and Democrat, and 4 out of 5 times I can convict them. And particularly if it's for these ridiculous amounts of money that are hard to explain, like $50 million for condoms in Mozambique. This is after 3 weeks of looking.
Are they ever going to go after the COVID money from New York where they paid, 3 times the price of the vaccines? Do you know what I'm talking about? When the governor bought the vaccine?
Oh, Governor Hochul. I mean, Governor Hochul's got one of the really classic cases where she purchased $600,000 worth of COVID tests when COVID was over. She spent $600,000 for precisely the same amount and the same tests that California, hardly a really straight state, spent $300,000 for. When you look back on it, you found that the company made a $300,000 contribution to her PAC. So she produced her own campaign contribution by taking your tax money and spending twice as much money on what was probably originally an inflated price for condom tests.
Or for COVID tests.
And by the way, that never appeared to work. These condom tests were like useless. And condom was over then. And the big danger was taking a vaccine and you get COVID.
We all have condom on the brain. It's, I think.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
COVID. It's COVID.
COVID, not condoms, right? Condom 19.
New brand.
These cases that are being brought are absurd. First, one is stopping Musk people who are government appointees. They're appointees of the President of the United States. They're saying they're not properly vetted to look at the Treasury data. This is not personal data. These are systemic things. These are large. I don't know that they can figure out, who got the condoms. And there's no legal requirement that people be vetted. It's a wise thing that they are. But the president, there's no law that says everybody that works for the government has to be vetted. They should be. And I'm sure they are going to be over a period, and they may be. They may just be lying about that. But that's not a legal barrier. And they're doing a surface audit in order to get an idea of what they have to do. I can't tell you how often I did this privately when I had my security company. The first thing we would do before we could figure out, I would always divide a contract usually in half. First part of the contract was pay me a rather small amount of money to just do an assessment of what the heck is going on so I can tell you how much it's going to cost to really straighten things out. And then I would be able to say, number one, I can't do it. Number two, I can do it. It could be very expensive. You got to decide whether it's worth it. Or I can do it and it'll be reasonable. So, I mean, how do you start? You start by doing either if you can, a complete audit. If you can't, a spot check audit. And I think that's what they were doing here. I don't think they've looked at everything. Not even close. This is what came up quickly. I mean, I am very encouraged or discouraged by the fact that this is a gold mine of crimes. I mean, USAID is going to be providing wonderful criminal cases for the Justice Department for the next at least 4 years. And they probably should put together a task force just for them. But the court says they can't. They can't look. They can't look. Then when the president cut off when the president cut off some of the illegal spending or the ridiculously absurd spending, there's also a judge who has enjoined that. But who's in charge of the public fisc? The president. The Congress passes laws. The president executes those laws. Now, there's nothing unconstitutional about what he's doing. There's something unconstitutional about what the judge is doing. The judge has expanded the role of a judge into the role of an executive. And the reason we have freedom, even before the Bill of Rights, is a separation of powers. You don't respect that, you don't respect freedom. I don't understand how you can be an American judge and not allow the executive to do basic things that every executive does in order to fulfill his oath that he took a couple of weeks ago, to make sure that the laws of the United States are, right in the Constitution, faithfully executed. That's the president's obligation, not Congress, not the court. And as a result of that, he has a right to appoint people to find out if the laws are being faithfully executed. And $50 million to buy condoms from Mozambique looks like somebody is corrupt. Not a bad start for an investigation. And if the president can't hold them accountable, who can? No one, which is what they want. So he's also dismantling bureaus that were established. Some of them were established by Congress. Can the president can the president do that? Can he order people to stop doing their job? Well, I would say yes, right? Because even though Congress established these bureaus, they're given to the president to be executed. And if he feels that they're doing it illegally or improperly, he is obligated to stop them. There's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing unconstitutional about it. Harvard law professor Hal Scott recently argued that the CFPB, the consumer fraud, crazy left-wing activist nut job organization,
child of Pocahontas,
is operating illegally because Congress funded the agency with earnings from the Federal Reserve. The Fed has incurred losses since September 2022, and the Bureau should close because there is no proper source of funding for them. And they're taking money that they're not entitled to, and it's illegal. Nobody's cared about that. Biden just let it go on and on and on. It's a way to save money. And nobody cared about that. That's illegal. But because it executes a wacky left-wing policy, it's okay. And I don't know. You know, and the idea that the president in some cases is exceeding his authority to test the law. Well, didn't Biden do that? Didn't Biden do that when he did the student loans? He couldn't get Congress to pass the law. He and Pelosi said he couldn't do it. It was unconstitutional. Then he did it anyway. Then the Supreme Court found it unconstitutional, and then he did it again. So I would say the first time, maybe he has a good faith basis to test the law. But once it's established, that's completely illegal and unconstitutional. No one. I mean, there's a lot of money being given away in forgiving loans that people were obligated to pay. So somebody who paid their loan was supporting somebody who didn't. And then they're saying he can't challenge birthright citizenship. Of course he can. There's a clause in there that is ambiguous. And they've never defined it. What does it mean to be within the jurisdiction of the United States? There are some judges that say it's enough that you can be criminally prosecuted. There are other judges that say it means being part of the United States, so that even if you leave the United States, you can be prosecuted, whereas an illegal can't. And Judge Alito has already said that that's a very substantial argument. So he has every right to test it. I mean, it'd be a constitutional crisis if the president defied a Supreme Court ruling, and he hasn't. He's followed all the rulings. When they told him to stop, even though it was absurd, ridiculous, idiotic, he stopped. And in one case, the court has now told him to go ahead. So whose constitutional crisis is it? It's the judges who are doing the same thing they did in 2020 when they refused to look at the election cases on purpose. And I'm going to tell you, I know that, and I stopped going to court, and I went to the legislatures because, sorry, Justice Roberts and all you guys, the fix was in.
Well, Mayor.
Yes, Ted.
Our fearless White House correspondent, Kara Castronova. Today, we're going to call her She's still the White House correspondent, but she has a not live, but she has a report for us
Live on tape.
from the Department of Justice.
From my home. Was she in the Great Hall?
Well, soon.
Let's see, I'll tell you where it was.
You tell us where you think she is here. So
I felt bad that Pam Bondi got sworn in the White House because the Great Hall of the Justice Department is beautiful. And I got sworn in there when I was Associate Attorney General. And I think Bill Smith was sworn in there, if I recall correctly. I mean, it's a beautiful place to do a swearing in. They have statues of all the great lawmakers. Now, I shouldn't say this because now they're going to they have all the Code of Hammurabi, the Napoleonic Code, the Roman laws, which were the basis, the Roman Codex, which was the basis of the Napoleonic Code, the Magna Carta, and the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
And Moses. Moses is one of the 10 great lawgivers. Man, they're trying to get him out, right? I don't see Muhammad there. He's over in that other place. He's over. There are more pictures that look like him at the Holocaust Museum, throwing Jews in a mass grave, which he did. Salman Rushdie's attempted murderer is finally on trial. And, they attempted to murder him because he wrote things that were despicable about Muhammad. Now, I've never read his stuff, and I'm going to read it to see, did he just write factually accurate things like Muhammad killed a lot of Jewish people and Christians. And part of how he spread the religion is you either converted or I kill you. But I guess one way to do it was kind of a little different for Jesus, but unless you believe that minister. I thought Jesus said, turn the other cheek. I thought that was, yeah. I mean, I always had a hard time with turning the other cheek because I would get punched. If I turned the other cheek in Brooklyn, I'd get knocked down on my backside.
So do you want to go to Kara?
Yeah, of course I do.
All right.
There she is.
Hey, Rudy. So right now I'm outside of the Department of Justice. We just came out of an incredible press conference where Pam Bondi announced a lawsuit against New York State, specifically targeting Governor Kathy Hochul, Attorney General Letitia James, and DMV Commissioner Mark Schroeder. Specifically, again, targeting these green light laws that we have in New York State that allows illegal immigrants to get driver's licenses. Take a listen to what went on inside.
Here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms. Thank you for having me here today and being able to share Kayla's story. Her murderer was able to come across the border knowing that he was flagged as an MS-13 gang member, and he had a criminal record in 2020 in El Salvador for illicit gang activity. He came over as an unoccupied alien child, saying that he was afraid of gang activity in his country. Health and Human Services called him a nice boy, and he showed age-appropriate behavior. That fell so wrong when he murdered my daughter. He ended up in Maryland, where he was able to rent a room in the same mobile home as her. We thought it was a legit company that were renting out these rooms, but it turned out that it was another illegal immigrant who owned these mobile homes. And he knew Walter from El Salvador. He knew him and allowed him to rent a room with my child. Kayla just turned 20 years old 3 days before she was murdered. Her murderer was only living there for 5 days before he viciously strangled her, raped her, and left her on the floor like trash and robbed her of $6. I have been sharing her story for over 2.5 years to bring change, because this should have not have ever happened to Kayla, and it shouldn't be happening to other families being hurt by the border.
Violent criminals, gang members, drug traffickers, human smugglers will no longer terrorize the American people. And that is why we are here today. You will be held accountable if you do not follow federal law. It's over, it ends, and we're coming after you.
As this legal battle begins to unfold, its ramifications for state-federal relations on immigration policy remain to be seen. For now, the DOJ's bold move marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing national debate over sanctuary policies. Reporting for America's Mayor Live outside of the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., I'm Kara Castronova. Back to you, Rudy.
Well, isn't Kara terrific? You know, I'm going to tell you about Kara. I have before, but we're going to have to sit it down for I think it's worth like a podcast. Like I do one of my old Common Sense podcasts, maybe even an hour, 15 minutes to go over J6. You know, she knows more about how those people were treated. I can't say than anybody, but there's a group of about maybe 8 or 10 people who really got into it. And I remember she was... I was really upset because about 5 days after January 6th, with my staff and mostly with Dr. Maria, I put together a report for the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia because I guess I still had a certain naive sense that given the fact that there was what looked to me and a number of New York City detectives as a first-degree murder by a cop of an innocent woman who posed no danger to him, when there were 2 other people that if you were confused, if you remember correctly, the police that were guarding Pelosi's door backed off, allowed 2 guys, one of them an identified Antifa member, to start smashing in the door. I believe one had a helmet and the other had like a ram thing. So they're smashing in the door. Meanwhile, further away, this 5'2" unarmed woman is up on the top here of a parapet. And you can't tell if she's standing on something or people are holding her up. And if she's going to come in, she's going to have to fall. If they come in, they're going to come in with their helmet and with their ram. And they're 2 rather, fearsome looking guys. So for no reason ever explained to anyone, he blew her brains out. She was the furthest away. She was the least threatening. He also had 6 cops readily available to put handcuffs on any one of them. So I thought, regardless of the political garbage going on, the one thing that always was true of prosecutors and cops is no fooling around with a first-degree murder case. Murder is just too important. In New York, we never close a murder case. It's open for 1,000 years, if possible. We solved murders 50, 70 years ago. Why? Because human life is so damn important. That's why. Well, I guess to the District of Columbia and the Biden administration, human life doesn't mean shit because they never investigated it. Ashley Babbitt was murdered. And all of those completely disreputable, dishonest pieces of garbage on the January 6th committee, you can just know that they're pieces of garbage because they never asked a single question about Ashley Babbitt. The woman was killed for no reason other than, I think I know the reason. In order to make sure that they stamped it with the murder of a Trump supporter, so that the fact that it was really being orchestrated by Antifa and the FBI was obscured. Yep. Now, I knew that the night of January 6th. So you can imagine what it's been like to watch all this happen. And I actually, against the advice of some of my colleagues, Dr. Maria and I, was so naive. And maybe me, even more than her. I said, I know prosecutors, Maria. And look, no matter how bad this guy is, a murder, all bets are off, boy. A murder, you investigate. Never look at a single damn thing we gave him. Ever. I have every reason to believe they destroyed the records. They destroyed my testimony because I kicked the shit out of Ruskin. I made him look like a babbling idiot that he is. They never wanted to put that out. I have it. Sometime I'll play it for you. You can see what a jackass he really is when a good lawyer starts to wrap him up, which I did. But I'm willing to bet they destroyed those records. Now, that's not going to do any good because we have them. And at some point, I really do believe that this administration will solve the Ashley Babbitt case. You put a decent U.S. attorney in there, and so far the acting U.S. attorney is frightening the hell out of them. You got a lot of people you can put in jail. This is going to sound really strange, and it's going to create a real hell of a reaction, but Elon has already done it with regard to some of these judges that have entered what I would consider unconstitutional orders. Now, Elon's not a lawyer, and I think he's doing a great job. But I think prosecuting these judges who are overstepping their role as judges doesn't rise to the level of criminal prosecution. Maybe impeachment, maybe discipline. But when you start depriving people of due process and you stick them in solitary confinement and you put pressure on them so they lie, I don't care if you're a judge or a minister or what the hell you are, you get prosecuted. So I think a lot of these judges in the District of Columbia need to be investigated because they became judges as if we were in Soviet Union or Nazi Germany. And these people really suffered. These January 6 people really suffered. It is true. Some of them hurt police officers. They deserve to be punished appropriately. You don't punish them by holding them in prison without charges for 2 years. We're not allowed to do that, even to terrorists. So we can't do it to somebody who hits a police officer. In New York, Alvin Bragg had let him out. Well, these guys spent 3 and 4 years in prison. And it wasn't a prison. It was a torture cell. You're going to find out a lot about January 6. And our reporter is a great, courageous investigative reporter, has all the facts. And they're not going to stop her. I believe she was the female middleweight boxing champion in New York about 8 years ago. So want to mess around with her? She'll knock you on your ass. Okay. Remember the China balloon? I got a picture of the China balloon. There it is. Can you show that picture? It's a little strange the way the thing is today, but there it is. There's the China balloon.
Is that from above?
I don't know what it is, but that's the China balloon. Okay. I'm going to tell you about it because they put out a report on it. It was a 200-foot tall balloon. 200-foot tall balloon. It had a satellite communication module, so it could send all its pictures back to Red China. It had sensors and other technology, most of it stolen from America. It was eventually shot down after it left the United States and had the opportunity to deliver all of its photos, video and still photos to the Red Chinese government. It stopped at 8 different sensitive American military facilities where it was able to take as many photos as it could with the help of the United States Air Force because they were escorted by Air Force jets. They took photographs. They collected other intelligence data. They had as much time as they needed. Nobody rushed them. I mean, gosh, I mean, if they're going to steal our secrets, what the heck? Biden wanted to make sure they had appropriate accommodations and they were treated correctly. I mean, I guess if you get paid $31 million by a country and they want to spy on you, you're kind of accommodating, right? I mean, after all, he gave up the Bagram Air Base 400 miles from China for no reason other than to make China more secure. Do you know who's running that air base now? China. Good, Joe. Air base 400 miles from China. And we're looking for one now 2,000 miles from China. We had one 400 miles from China until you goddamn traitor, did it. Gave it away. Well, 5 American companies supplied everything in that. China would not have been able to put that damn thing together unless they stole it from the United States, because China can't do a damn thing unless they steal it. One of the things that communism does for you or to you is it can make you a little robot so you can outproduce us like a robot, but you can't outcreate us. In fact, you can't create at all because they cut that off. From the day you're born, you're a robot. You're a creature of the government. You are, in the words of Karl Marx, Frederick Engels, and everyone who came after them, property of the state. You do not belong to your parents. You do not belong to your family. You do not belong to your church, and you don't belong to yourself. You're property of the state. It weighed thousands of pounds, and the Chinese say it was doing weather research, and it got all worse. That's like they said they didn't spread COVID-19 either. It didn't come from the Wuhan laboratory. And Dr. Fauci supported that. So Saturday is a big day. BB has, I don't know, it's ridiculous. I shouldn't say this, but it reminds me of craps. You know, in craps, you shoot, then you establish a number, and then you got to get that number before you hit, what is it, 7 or 11 or something like that. Or and then other people bet with you or against you. So the president said, having lost his patience, which he should have, since here's how it happened, right? The Palestinian criminals, which is most of Palestine, the Palestinian terrorists and criminals said they were going to deliver 8 more hostages this Saturday. And then they said Israel broke the agreement, although no real specification of it. Therefore, they're not going to deliver anybody. And then Donald Trump got a chance to see a terrible mistake that they made when they just displayed the 3 people they released this weekend. And he was able to see, I'll see I can find that for you. He was able to see something. Now, you got to know, my friend, if he sees this, boy, you are in trouble. You are really in trouble. You see that man over there? See that man? That man was held by the Palestinians that our young people from Ivy League schools protest in favor of. He was held in a tunnel for over 400 days. He never got out of the tunnel. He was fed every 3 or 4 days. This is what he looked like before he went in. This is what he looked like after the Hamas animals got a chance to torture him. The president saw that, and there are other pictures like that. I used that as an illustration. He saw that, I believe, either on his way to the Super Bowl or on his way back. And the next morning, he got up and he said, I've had enough of this piecemeal release of hostages, and we don't even know. The hostages that were released last week, they didn't even know their families were dead. There are 70 or whatever left, 30 are dead. We don't know which 30 are dead and which 40 are alive. So the families are sitting there like, oh my God. Oh my, is my baby alive? Is my husband alive? Is my grandfather alive? The people there don't know that when they got grabbed and kidnapped, either they did or didn't kill their family. In the case of the 3 people released, one of them, they killed his whole family. He didn't know that. He wondered why they weren't communicating with him, because the animals killed them. I don't know if they raped them and beat them, and probably. Or did they kill them and the children had to watch the parents get killed, or vice versa? That all happened. It's on tape. And the Israelis are in front of the world court and not the animals who did it. That's why that world court should be designated a terrorist organization. I think Trump once again has cut off funding for it, which is good. At least we don't pay for a terrorist institution. So when he saw that, and he heard what some of the people were saying, that this is another Holocaust. These people are being held in conditions of torture. And the other 2, not much better. And we have no idea what the ones that are going to come out look like. I imagine the ones that are going to come out now look the worst. And we have no idea of the 70, which ones are alive and which ones are dead. And the families are being tortured with that. It's a form of torture. And I think Trump did what Biden should have done 2 years ago. He said, these people are going to come out on Saturday at noon, every single one. No more a few here, a few there. You're going to give us all the live ones. You're going to give us all the dead bodies. And if you don't, it all stops. Hell breaks loose. Earlier, he gave even a better description of it. But it was very good measured that he didn't, which is there'll be no more Gaza. We're not going to have to worry about you anymore because you're going to be gone. You're going to get up to paradise and you're going to see if that whole thing with 72 or 79 virgins really works. I have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. I know in the Muslim religion you have hell. I don't know if they give you the virgins in hell. And how could there be that many virgins left? I mean, look at all those Islamic extremists the Israelis have killed so far. They must have used up all the virgins. You guys are wackos, but you're dangerous wackos. This is the right thing to do, and should have been done 2 years ago. I really believe if it was done 2 years ago, we would have saved more lives. I just don't think that negotiating these kind of negotiations with these animals, you cannot negotiate with people who aren't human. You're going to get more of your people killed doing that, and then you're going to encourage further kidnappings and negotiations. And somehow a leader has to have the ability to remove himself or herself from the emotion that a parent would have. Look, if my child was being held by them and the Israelis wanted to give up 1,000 prisoners for my child, absolutely. But if I'm the president of Israel and I'm in charge of the safety of my country, that would assure the death of another 100, 200, 300 people. I can't do that. I've got to suffer with the fact that I may have caused a death, but I have to do that because my obligation is to protect my people. So I think Israel should really rethink this, because a lot of this attack on October 6th was done by people the Israelis had let out of jail. The guy who led it, Sinwar, was in jail for the rest of his life, and they let him out for one Israeli soldier. They let out 1,000 of them from one Israeli soldier, including Sinwar. So maybe they should rethink that and say, henceforth, you take an Israeli, we're not going to negotiate with you. We're going to expect him back or her back in 3 days. And if they don't, you're going to have so much destruction, none of you will be left. We're just going to wipe out your entire organization, your entire civilization, the whole thing. There's no civilization. We're going to wipe out the shitholes you live in. That's what Trump will do. I got no doubt about it. This is a enormously important time for him because Putin and Xi Jinping are looking at this. And if he does what they are afraid he'll do, we'll go a long way in protecting ourselves against them too. Because they are not unintelligent. They're vicious. They're almost inhuman, if not inhuman, but they're very smart. And they don't want to die, and they don't want their countries to be destroyed. And if he delivers on hell will break loose, believe me, it'll shake them up. So Saturday at noon is going to be really important. And my recommendation is it's noon. No extension, not a minute. This is how I got all those protesters that used to destroy New York City. I mean, their riots were like, in New York, you have riots. I didn't have a single riot in 8 years. One time, a group got a permit for 4 hours of demonstrating. It was the Million Man March that really was 20,000 men. And the court said you can do it until 4. At 4 o'clock, I got a call from my police commander who said they would like to get an extension, Mayor, for about a half hour because they came late. And I said, screw them. Turn off the power. And I guarantee you, Chief, in a few minutes, they'll all leave. He said, they're not going to leave. I said, Chief, do you trust me? Yeah. And in 2 minutes, 12 helicopters came over and they ran like hell. I said 4, it was 4. Never had another protest. Never had a burning protest ever as mayor. You have these are terrible people. You've got to set the lines. The civilized people have to control. So I recommend to Bibi and to the president. You said 12 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock, not 12:01, not 12:02. 12 o'clock, and then the destruction of Gaza starts. And doesn't stop until Gaza is destroyed and has to be completely rebuilt. And believe me, that'll send a message that'll resonate with all of these monsters all over the world. So we have people in Ukraine now. I imagine the Secretary of the Treasury arrived there to negotiate the deal for rare earth minerals. The president wants to put the providing of money to Ukraine on a basis of loans or commercial exchanges. Now, do you see the wisdom in this? A lot of the American people think we've given too much money to Ukraine. We have. And a lot of it's been stolen. It's impossible that it hasn't been. When you combine the American military-industrial complex and the crooked Ukrainian government, come on, 200 billion, and they're not going to take a big chunk of that? Of course. By the way, these controls that Musk is looking for on no controls. Biden rejected them in Congress. The weak Congress, including our weak Republicans, never insisted on auditing. But we don't know where the money went. We really don't know where the money went. Senile McConnell said at the time, well, we can be sure it's okay because it went to the American military-industrial complex. Well, that's one of the reasons why we know it was stolen. The reason we have a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act is because the American military-industrial complex. He's probably been doing business for so long, he doesn't realize, or he's gotten, completely wacky, that he's sort of making an admission. So I think this is really terrific because we need a lot of these minerals in order to put ourselves in a position where we're independent of China. And I also think it's good for Ukraine. It'll make the providing money to them less politically controversial as they want to protect themselves. So tomorrow we will be watching for Holman meeting with Adams. They're going to talk about how far New York City can go, and they should go all the way in helping get rid of the illegal aliens that are in New York that maybe are actually now really contributing the remaining crime. I can't escape the report a couple of weeks ago that 60% of the crime in Queens is caused by illegal aliens. So you get rid of that 60%, crime's got to be down in Queens. If you have any doubt about Trump's approach and does it work, when Biden was president, he said, we can't return the people to Venezuela, where probably the worst criminals come from, because Maduro, who was a disciple of Castro, is following what Castro did during the Mariel boat lift. He's sending his criminals to America in large numbers. And you notice maybe 1 out of 2 times it's a trendy Aragua or Venezuelan, like Laken Riley was killed by a Venezuelan. It's a Venezuelan who commits the crimes. So he said, I'm not going to take them. So Biden kept them all. I recommended any number of things, like put them in a transport, just land them there. What are they going to do? Shoot down your transport? Just surround it by 4 or 5 American fighters and blow the shit out of them. And then put the people there. Then, of course, more facetiously, I said, give them parachutes. But you don't take that crap. So Trump sent Rubio there, and somehow, miraculously, Maduro is taking them all. I won't ask what he said. Now, and the end of this statement from the Venezuelan communist is they have been directed to avoid any measures, any conduct that would lead to Trump measures and sanctions, because they're scared shitless, because they're bullies. You stand up to them. You don't get down on your knees and beg them like Biden did. So the FBI has now arrested. They got another one. They got another one right here. I don't know why why would you think they'd cover up the face of a Tren de Aragua murderer? I don't know. They arrested this guy. They arrested this guy, this gang. They called them gangbangers. And they arrested this guy as part of the big hunt that they're doing, right? They call it a huge win because he was like a leader of Tren de Aragua. He's a murderer. He's in charge of a fentanyl ring. And he was arrested along with 3 other Tren de Aragua gangbangers. I believe it's in Houston. But look, they have a picture of him and they cover up his face. Why would you cover up his face? What are we protecting his privacy for? I don't get it. I don't know what. This is not like some teenager. I don't know why they covered up his face, but there's another Tren de Aragua. This Tren de Aragua, there were none of them here before Biden. This is a Biden gift to America. Tren de Aragua from communist Venezuela. This is shocking. if true. And I have no reason to believe it isn't true to the extent it's been reported, because it comes from Tom Homan. Tom Homan says that an FBI employee leaked critical details of a planned immigration raid. It's been being investigated by the Justice Department. And the U.S. Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove told Tom that his office believes it's identified the leaker responsible for tipping off Venezuelan migrants, criminals, before a large operation in Aurora, Colorado, which, now we've proven they control. During the campaign, Trump and Vance were criticized greatly by the mayor of Denver and Governor Feliz Navidad that they made it up. Aurora is controlled by Tren de Aragua. Well, this guy, whoever he is with the FBI, warned them about a raid so they could all run. The FBI has been sufficiently modified now, so they have said that this guy's going to prison. Pretty soon, I think we should identify him. He's not entitled to be kept hidden. We want to know who this FBI guy is. How high up was he? Why the hell did he do it? Did he get paid? Is this ideological? Is it only him? The FBI's got a lot of problems. It's not going to be solved by hiding this stuff. It's going to be solved by transparency. This is a very serious thing. They almost got immigration agents killed because of the FBI agent or employee being a traitor. So tomorrow, I'll give you a little taste of this. Tomorrow, we're going to go out and we're going to go look at this $200 million piece of property in Palm Beach. We're going to take pictures of it and we can compare it to Mar-a-Lago. And we're going to show you that Judge Engomoron is a crook, a bum, a political hack, and a product of the worst judicial system in America, the New York Supreme Court in New York City. When he said it was worth $18 million. This is a piece of property. I'll give you a little. Oh, I may have it here. Let me see if I have it here. Let me see if I have it here. Let's see. Maybe I don't. Nope. I don't have it here. So I'll show you this. Here. Here we go. Hold it. Here. See that little piece of property? It's like two little parcels. This one and that one. That's worth $200 million. That's about a tenth of the size of Mar-a-Lago. All right, I'm going to leave you with a couple of jokes. This comes from the Babylon Bee. We're borrowing it from. You ever look at the Babylon Bee? Oh, they are so much fun. So here's some stuff from the Babylon Bee that was picked up by the Post. So Democrats delay Kash Patel vote as FBI hasn't finished shredding all the documents. That's one. Okay.
All right, take that.
Prince Harry asks ICE to deport him to Guantanamo Bay for some peace and quiet. How about this one? Democrats assure Americans the millions in USAID they gave Hamas was just for gay stuff. How about Chiefs fire the refs? While the team's officials had performed well enough all season to contribute to a number of victories, the referee's inability to come through in the clutch when the team needed them the most led the Chiefs to believe a change was needed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think you got something else you want to add?
I want to make one more. Let's switch back to the mayor if we can. And I just want to point one thing out.
Yeah, what do you want to point out?
And that's that Jim Tressel. I just want to make this point for as a political point. Governor DeWine, we didn't mention this yesterday. Governor DeWine has named the ex-Ohio State football coach, Jim Tressel, who was well known as a coach,
right,
as lieutenant governor. And I just want to point that out to folks who are thinking of that. Ohio, there's a Senate race and the governor's race. And Ohio governor, you have Vivek Ramaswamy running, who's a big national name.
He's going to have to run against
But
the
if this
football.
Jim guy runs, Vivek could have. It'll be interesting. So I just want to point that out.
Is he very popular?
Yeah, he was a popular coach. He beat Michigan 9 out of 10 years. And that's a big football.
Yeah, how did that happen, Ted?
Between
He beat
2001 and
Michigan
2000.
9 out of 10 years?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how Brady Hoke and Rich Rodriguez is how that happened. Those are the two coaches during.
What did Notre Dame do this year?
Very good. We watched together a lot. We watched a lot of their football together this year.
Well,
their big loss to begin the season, remember?
Yeah, but I mean,
and then the
yeah,
big
okay.
and then the big win
So
at the end.
They probably the first game they didn't pray enough. The
They
rest
lost
of the games, their coach was Jesus. And how do you beat Jesus in football?
Right. And we thought, I thought Georgia.
And who did they beat in the last game?
Well, we saw them beat Penn State, right, with our friend Ryan.
Yeah.
And I think the next round, and that was the semifinal, right? And then they played in the national championship.
And who did they beat?
And oh my gosh, why am I having a brain fart right now? They beat whoa. No, we're getting this wrong. Notre Dame lost
to
Ohio State.
Oh, they lost.
Sorry.
We won.
So with the new playoffs, they beat Georgia. We watched them beat Georgia.
We lost to Ohio State.
We
Jesus,
watched them
what
beat-
did you do? Double cross us?
I know. And then you lose to Ohio
See,
State.
Jesus wanted us to develop character.
Yeah. But they were rewarding Ohio State for voting for President Trump. Maybe that was it.
Yeah, I guess. Ohio is a good state for us, but Michigan's getting pretty good, Ted.
Michigan, well, then
And
that
Steven,
goes to
these are
President
both-
Trump.
We're a little more purple than.
Can we show a picture of our hero here with Steven? Can you get the camera on him?
Yeah, I can get a camera on him.
This is our hero. We're trying to do a contract with him, but he's very elusive.
Where are we here? Oh, there we are.
Yeah, this guy, Raleigh.
No, more.
This
Give me
guy
the remote.
Raleigh
Give me the
could
remote.
do our dog reports because I'm very interested in getting into dog rescue.
Riley, look at the camera.
I watch Rocky Kanaka all the time, and I want to help him.
Over there.
Raleigh, food.
Oh yeah.
Food, Rocky.
Raleigh,
food.
Riley, you got to look at the camera. See, I don't.
Rudy
think he
give you
under-
food.
He doesn't really get that you have to make eye contact with the camera.
Well, we have to train him.
Go back. Riley, look.
Raleigh.
There's a camera. There's a whole camera right there.
He's such a good boy.
He's a good doggy.
Well, Raleigh is our like we have Stephen and Ted and Kara and Dr. Maria. Raleigh is a part of our team. He's a very, very important part of our team. He organizes all the dogs to watch us, and he makes sure that dogs are all Republicans. There's no question about it. Dogs have excessive common sense, and they know how to keep. He's looking for a little food.
All right. Great.
Well, thank you very, very much for bearing with us. We had a great time tonight covering the news. I really do think, unlike when, a year ago at this time when I was very, very concerned about whether our country could come back from their having delivered it to a very large extent to kind of a communist ideology. I believe we're really working our way out of it. Now, it's painful and it's difficult, but it's helping that they're so foolish. I mean, the stupid things that they're fighting for, let's have a big battle so that men can go into ladies' rooms. They're in favor of men going into ladies' room. The Democrats are, and we're against it. Who do you think wins that one? They're in favor of men being allowed to be in women's sports, even like boxing, which I would consider abuse. My father brought me up, and he trained me to be a boxer. He said, if you ever hit a woman, I'll beat the shit out of you because you're not a man. And he said, if you ever see a guy hitting a woman, go up to him and said, how do you think you're going to do with a man? Come on. Then we've got they're defending waste and abuse in the government. You want to know why? Because a lot of them are sharing in it. No, this isn't. Please, have I misled you on anything? I'm telling you, you don't spend that kind of money unless you're cheating. So I'm going to sign off. I'm going to come up with two kind of roughly correct numbers, okay? Roughly correct. Let's see. New York, Florida. So, New York spends $267 billion on its budget every year. Florida spends a little under $125 billion. Florida has 3 million more people. So why is there that big difference? What happens to that extra, gosh almighty, $125 million? $125 billion more being spent in New York than in Florida. Because in New York, corruption is systemic. In Florida, it's episodic, meaning it happens occasionally. In New York, it's been built into the government since Boss Tweed. That's the difference. And when you see that kind of excessive spending, and you see Democrats running it, they're stealing. Well, on that happy note, we're going to sign off. And the reason it's happy is we're doing something about it, finally. And we got a president who, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of him. Makes me optimistic for my kids and my grandchild and yours. So pray for the people of Israel. Big decision coming up on Saturday. Pray for the people of Ukraine. Big decision coming up maybe on Friday. Pray always for the people of Iran. We haven't had a chance to really cover Iran as much as we'd like to, but we will. We will. We'll get Ali Reza back and we'll tell you what's going on there, because I have a very strong feeling that Ayatollah is not going to be around much longer. And then we got to make sure we do it right. And finally, pray for Ted and his mom. Ted's going back this weekend for the services for his mom. He lost his mom a couple weeks ago, as you know. And he's been a real trooper helping us. And but he's on the phone with his dad and his family all the time. Tough losing your mom, no matter what, no matter when. But he's handling it beautifully, and he's helping his family a lot. He's a good man. We tease Ted a lot, but he's a good man. Right, Stephen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Stephen's been
Thank
his
you.
friend. Stephen's been his friend for a long, long time.
Thank you, Mayor.
You, Ted.
Thank you, Mayor, for those kind words.
Well, you deserve it. And, of course, God bless America. We'll see you tomorrow night. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze